The morning after our wedding, my husband's mother handed me a list. From now on, you'll cook, clean, and serve the family. That's your duty as a wife. My husband smirked. It's just tradition. I smiled. Then you'll love who I hired. Their smug faces dropped as a team of housekeepers walked in. The morning sunlight streamed through our honeymoon suite as I stepped out of the shower, still riding the high of yesterday's wedding. That's when I heard the knock. Not the hotel staff with breakfast, but my new mother-in-law, Diane, standing there with my husband James beside her, both wearing expressions I couldn't quite read. Perfect timing, Diane chirped, brushing past me into our suite. We need to discuss how things will work now that you're officially part of the family. She pulled out a neatly folded piece of paper from her designer purse and placed it on the coffee table with the ceremonious air of someone presenting a royal decree. I picked it up, my wedding ring catching the light as I unfolded what appeared to be a typed list. From now on, you'll cook, clean, and serve the family. That's your duty as a wife, she announced, watching me intently. The Chen family has traditions that go back generations. As the newest wife, you'll be responsible for maintaining our household standards. My stomach dropped as I scanned the detailed schedule. 5 a.m. wake up to prepare breakfast, specific recipes I was expected to master, daily cleaning routines, and even instructions on how to properly serve James when he returned from work. I looked at my husband of exactly 19 hours, silently pleading for him to say something, anything, to defend me. James just smirked. It's just tradition, babe. Every woman in our family does this. I took a deep breath and smiled. Then you'll love who I hired. Their smug faces dropped as a team of housekeepers walked in. I'm Eliza, 32, senior marketing director at a tech firm I helped build from the ground up. My career has always been my priority. Late nights perfecting campaigns, weekends spent analyzing market trends, the rush of closing major accounts. Independence wasn't just a value, it was my identity. Then James Chen walked into a client meeting 18 months ago. Tall, confident, with an easy laugh that made everyone in the room feel special. He ran his family's investment firm, but spoke about wanting to modernize it, to break away from outdated business practices. When he asked for my number after the meeting, I surprised myself by giving it to him. I've never met a woman with such drive, he told me on our third date as we shared dessert at a rooftop restaurant. Most women I date eventually want to quit their jobs and focus on family. It's refreshing to meet someone with ambition. Those words were like oxygen to me. Finally, a man who valued my career as much as his own. The first time I met his mother was 3 months in. She examined me with calculating eyes while serving traditional Chinese tea in their family home, a mansion that spoke of old money and older traditions. Your apartment is very modern, she commented after visiting once. A family home needs warmth, tradition, a woman's touch. James squeezed my hand afterward. Mom's old school, don't take it personally. But the comments continued. When James proposed 6 months later, Diane's congratulations came with a caveat. Now you can focus on becoming a proper wife. James dismissed it with a laugh. Mom thinks it's still 1950. Just ignore her. The wedding planning became a battleground. Diane insisted on traditional elements I wasn't comfortable with. James started phrases with, "my mother thinks," more frequently. Each time I pushed back, he'd sigh, "It's easier to just go along with it. It's important to her." I compromised, telling myself it was just wedding stress. Once we were married, things would settle. James and I would build our own life, our own rules. I couldn't have been more wrong. Have you ever had that moment when someone reveals who they truly are, and you realize you've been blind all along? That gut punch feeling when the person you trusted most stands with someone else against you? If family expectations and relationship betrayals sound familiar, you're not alone. Subscribe to Reddit Family Sagas for more stories about the shocking moments that force us to choose between peace and self-respect. Trust me, the satisfaction of what happens next in this story will be worth every second. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just planned, it's perfectly timed. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. Like bright red flags I deliberately colorblinded myself to. 3 months before the wedding, Diane surprised us by redecorating our future home while we were away on business trips. My minimalist furniture disappeared, replaced with ornate traditional pieces. My home office converted to a proper tea room. Your work corner can go in the kitchen, she explained, patting my arm. That way you can keep an eye on dinner while you type. James shrugged when I confronted him. She meant well, and honestly, it does look more like a family home now. Then came the cooking lessons. Diane insisted on teaching me James's favorite dishes. He likes his rice prepared exactly this way, she demonstrated, measuring water with precision. A good wife remembers these details. When I mentioned hiring a part-time housekeeper since we both worked demanding jobs, Diane laughed as if I'd suggested growing wings. Housekeepers are for women who can't manage their homes, she said. James's grandmother raised 5 children, maintained a spotless home, and never once complained. Modern women think everything should be easy. James, who once praised my career ambition, now nodded along. Mom has a point. We should try doing things ourselves first. 2 weeks before the wedding, Diane presented me with a family heirloom, a jade pendant worn by Chen brides for generations. This symbolizes your commitment to our family values, she said, clasping it around my neck. It felt heavy, constricting. That night, James revealed his surprise. He'd accepted a promotion that would require extensive travel. It's perfect timing, he said excitedly. You can scale back at work while I'm traveling. Maybe even think about starting a family soon. When I expressed concern about the sudden change in our plans, his response chilled me. Eliza, we're getting married. Priorities change. My mother managed fine when my father traveled. The final red flag came during our rehearsal dinner. Diane stood to make a toast, glass raised high. To Eliza, who will make a wonderful addition to our family, I look forward to teaching you everything about being a Chen wife, just as my mother-in-law taught me. The room applauded, while James beamed proudly. I smiled through gritted teeth, telling myself it was just talk. Just tradition. Just one more day until we were married, and James and I could define our own relationship away from his mother's influence. I never imagined they'd ambush me the morning after our wedding. I stared at the list in my hands, the paper trembling slightly between my fingers. The document was meticulously formatted, with headers, bullet points, and even footnotes, clearly not something Diane had thrown together that morning. This had been planned, prepared, waiting for the moment I was legally bound to her son. Daily schedule for Mrs. Chen, the heading read, as if my own name had been erased overnight. 5 a.m., rise and prepare breakfast, see approved menu options. 6:30 a.m., serve breakfast to James and ensure his work clothes are pressed. 7 a.m., clean kitchen and prepare James's lunch. 8 a.m., begin daily household cleaning routine. The list continued, hour by hour, detailing my expected servitude until 10 p.m., when I was permitted to retire after ensuring James has everything he needs for the night. A separate section outlined weekly duties, including hosting family dinners every Sunday, where I would serve Diane and other family members traditional meals, recipes attached in a separate folder she now pulled from her bag. My throat tightened. The room seemed to shrink around me. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, my temples, behind my eyes. This is a joke, right? I finally managed, looking directly at James. His expression wasn't apologetic or even conflicted. There was something almost smug in his eyes, like he'd finally captured a wild animal. Every Chen wife follows these traditions, he said flatly. My mother, my grandmother, my aunts, it's how our family works. But my job was fine when you were single, Diane interrupted smoothly. But you're a wife now. James needs a proper home. I felt something crack inside me. Not my heart, but the illusion I'd been living in. The man I married never existed. The partnership I thought we were building was a mirage. In that moment, clarity washed over me like ice water. I'd spent months compromising, rationalizing, hoping. No more. I reached for my phone, my fingers steady now despite the earthquake happening inside me. Excuse me, I said calmly. I need to make a call. I stepped into the bathroom, phone clutched in my hand, and locked the door behind me. My reflection stared back at me, still in my honeymoon pajamas, hair damp from the shower, eyes wide with disbelief. Everything clicked into place, the constant undermining, the gradual isolation from my friends, James's increasing deference to his mother's opinions. It wasn't just old-fashioned values, it was a calculated campaign to transform me into someone else entirely. "You're so lucky James doesn't mind your career," Diane had said months ago. "Not supports, doesn't mind." As if my accomplishments were a temporary indulgence he was permitting. "A wife's first duty is to her husband's comfort," she'd instructed during those cooking lessons, watching me like a hawk for any sign of resistance. Even James's proposal now took on a different meaning. "You make me feel like I can be the man I'm supposed to be," he'd said. Not the man he wanted to be. The man he was supposed to be. I'd walked straight into their trap, eyes wide open, ignoring every warning sign because I'd been so determined to believe James was different. My fingers hovered over my contacts list. Who could I call? My parents lived overseas. My maid of honor had flown back home last night. Then I saw the name, Vivian Zhang, my wedding planner, who'd become something of a friend during the past months of Diane wrangling. Vivian, who ran her own successful business. Vivian, who had connections throughout the city. Vivian, who had mentioned her brother owned a premium housekeeping service. I glanced at my watch, the same luxury timepiece I'd bought myself after closing my first $1 million account. I wasn't just Eliza Chen, newlywed, I was still Eliza Morgan, executive, and I had options. I dialed Vivian's number, a plan already forming. "They did what?" Vivian's voice crackled through the phone, her outrage clear despite the poor bathroom acoustics. "A literal instruction manual for being their servant," I whispered, keeping my voice down. "And James is completely on board." That manipulative. Vivian caught herself. I knew something was off when Diane insisted on those traditional ceremony elements you didn't want. This was their plan all along. "I feel so stupid," I admitted, sinking onto the edge of the bathtub. "All those red flags." "Stop that right now," Vivian interrupted firmly. "You're not stupid. They deliberately misled you. James presented himself as one person during dating and is revealing his true self now that he thinks you're locked in. That's not your fault. It's calculated deception." Her words loosened something in my chest. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. "So what are you thinking?" she asked after a moment. "I need to make a statement, something that shows I won't be controlled but doesn't immediately blow up my marriage of less than a day." I paused. "Your brother's housekeeping service? Is there any chance he could send a team here? Today? To the honeymoon suite?" I could almost hear Vivian's smile through the phone. "Executive package? Full service?" "The works," I confirmed, "and I need them here within the hour." "Consider it done. I'll text you when they're on their way." She hesitated. "Eliza, whatever happens next, you have people in your corner. My guest room is always available if you need space to think." The knot in my throat tightened. "Thank you." "One more thing," Vivian added. "Remember who you are. The woman who built a department from scratch. The strategist everyone wants on their team. You've handled tougher negotiations than this." After hanging up, I splashed cold water on my face and straightened my shoulders. Vivian was right. This wasn't just about housekeeping. This was a negotiation for the terms of my marriage, and I never entered negotiations I couldn't win. When I emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, I'd changed into a sleek blazer and trousers, my power outfit. James and Diane sat at the suite's dining table, heads together, whispering. They straightened when they saw me, Diane's expression smug, James's uncertain. "I've been thinking about your list," I said pleasantly, taking a seat across from them. "And I understand now." Diane's eyebrows shot up in surprise. James leaned forward eagerly. "Family traditions are important," I continued, "and maintaining a beautiful home for the Chen family should absolutely be a priority." "I'm so glad you understand," Diane said, reaching for my hand. "I was worried you might be difficult about this." I smiled. "Not at all. In fact, I've already taken steps to ensure the Chen household will be maintained to the highest standards." A knock at the door interrupted us. Perfect timing. "That must be them now," I said, rising to answer it. The door opened to reveal 4 uniformed professionals from Elite Home Services, led by a poised woman with a tablet. "Mrs. Chen?" "I'm Lynn, your household manager. We're here to set up your customized home maintenance program as requested." Diane's mouth fell open. James stood up so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. "What is this?" he demanded. I turned to him, expression innocent. "It's exactly what you wanted, darling. professional housekeeping staff to maintain Chen family standards. They'll handle all the cooking, cleaning, and household management according to your mother's exacting specifications. But that's not, Diane sputtered. Not what? I asked, voice hardening slightly. Not what you meant, because your list was quite clear about the standards required, but nowhere did it specify I had to be the one performing these tasks personally. This is not our tradition, Diane hissed. A wife serves her husband herself. It shows devotion. Actually, I countered, a wife supports her husband in building their best life together. And as two executives, our best life includes household help. James stepped between us. Eliza, be reasonable. We can't afford. I can, I interrupted. Consider it my wedding gift to us. Unless you'd prefer I quit my six-figure job to scrub toilets. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom, James finally said, could you give us a minute alone? Diane's face flushed dark red. This is not over, she warned, grabbing her purse and storming out. The household staff looked at me questioningly. Please wait in the hallway, I said calmly. My husband and I need to discuss our future. As the door closed behind Diane, James paced the room, running his hands through his hair. You humiliated my mother, he said, voice tight with anger. And you ambushed your bride with a servant schedule, I countered, keeping my voice level. The morning after our wedding. He stopped pacing. It's not a servant schedule, it's what wives in my family do. Did you ever once, during our 18 months together, tell me that's what you expected? His silence was answer enough. Why didn't you just marry someone who wanted that life? I asked, genuinely curious now. There are plenty of traditional women who would happily take on that role. James sank onto the couch, suddenly looking deflated. I tried. 3 relationships before you. They all seemed perfect on paper. Family-oriented, traditional values. But there was no spark, no challenge. He looked up at me. Then I met you. So brilliant, so driven. I was fascinated. So you thought you'd marry me, then break me down into someone else entirely? No. He protested, then hesitated. Maybe. I don't know. I thought once we were married, you'd naturally want to prioritize family. That's what my mother always taught me. Career women change after marriage. I sat beside him, maintaining careful distance. James, I need you to hear this clearly. I will never be the wife in your mother's manual. Not ever. I built my career from nothing. I support my parents back home. My work isn't just a job. It's part of who I am. So where does that leave us? He asked quietly. That depends on you, I replied. I married a man who I thought respected me as an equal partner. If that man exists, we have a chance. If he doesn't, I let the implication hang in the air. My mother will never accept this arrangement. I'm not married to your mother. He stared at his wedding ring, twisting it around his finger. I don't know how to be different from what I was raised to be. That, I said gently, is something you need to figure out, because I won't live my life by someone else's script. By evening, we'd reached a fragile truce. The housekeeping staff had departed after setting up a schedule for regular service. James and I sat across from each other at the hotel restaurant, our honeymoon suite, suddenly feeling too confining for the weight of our conversation. These are my non-negotiables, I said, sliding a notepad toward him. I've written them down so there's no confusion. James scanned the list. I maintain my career without interference or guilt. Household responsibilities are shared equally when we're both home. Major decisions are made together, not by your mother or family council. We live in our own home, not the family compound. Diane suggested, professional help for household management is not up for debate. We attend couples counseling to establish healthy boundaries. Couples counseling? He questioned, looking up. Non-negotiable, I repeated. What happened today doesn't just disappear because we've talked it through once. He nodded slowly. And if I agree to these terms, then we continue our marriage and work on building a partnership that respects both our needs. And if I don't, I met his gaze steadily. Then I check into another room tonight, call my lawyer tomorrow, and we begin annulment proceedings. His face paled. You'd end our marriage over this? I'd end our marriage over discovering the person I married misrepresented himself and his expectations in a fundamental way, I corrected. The question is whether that person, the one who valued my ambition and treated me as an equal, actually exists. James stared at the list for what felt like eternity. Finally, he took out a pen and added a line at the bottom. I will work on establishing boundaries with my mother and prioritizing our marriage. I do exist, he said quietly, signing his name beneath the list. I just got lost somewhere between my mother's expectations and my own desires. I want to find my way back. I took the pen and signed as well. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. The first week of marriage unfolded nothing like the fairy tale I'd imagined. We cut our planned honeymoon short, returning to reality and the work of rebuilding what had fractured before it had truly begun. Diane launched a full offensive. Daily calls, surprise visits, tearful accusations of destroying family traditions. When those tactics failed, she enlisted flying monkeys. James's aunts, cousins, even his father emerged from the background to express their concerns. Your mother says Eliza has forbidden you from family dinners, his father said during one call, speakerphone broadcasting his disapproval. That's not true, James replied, surprising me with his firmness. We're having dinner with you next Sunday. Eliza's just not cooking it. Small victories emerged between the battles. James attended our first counseling session without complaint. He stepped up with household tasks without being asked. When I landed a major client, he brought home champagne to celebrate. But I caught him sometimes, staring at his phone after his mother's calls, looking torn between worlds. The weight of generations of expectations pressed against our fragile new boundaries. Do you regret marrying me? I asked one night, the question that had been haunting me. He looked up from his laptop, expression thoughtful. I regret not being honest, with you or myself, about what marriage meant to me. But no, I don't regret marrying you. He reached for my hand. You're teaching me there's more than one way to honor tradition. We can create our own. I wanted to believe him. But trust, once broken, rebuilds slowly. 6 months later, we hosted our first dinner party as a couple. The housekeepers had prepared most of the meal, but I'd insisted on making dessert myself. A fusion of Western techniques and traditional Chinese flavors that represented our evolving partnership. Diane sat at our table, her disapproval muted but still visible in the tight lines around her mouth. Yet something had shifted in the power dynamic. When she made a pointed comment about modern wives, James no longer looked conflicted. Mom, he said firmly, Eliza and I have our own way of doing things. That's not up for discussion. Later, after the guests had gone, James found me in the kitchen, putting away the last of the dessert plates. I have something to show you, he said, leading me to his office. On his desk lay a formal letter. His family's investment firm was opening a new division focused on tech startups, and he'd recommended me to head their marketing strategy as an external consultant. It's not nepotism, he clarified quickly. The board reviewed your portfolio independently. They were impressed. I studied his face, searching for hidden motives. And your mother voted against it, he admitted with a small smile. But she was outnumbered. The firm needs to evolve, and she's beginning to accept that. Just like she's slowly accepting that our marriage doesn't follow her blueprint. I thought about the journey of the past 6 months. The painful conversations, the boundaries tested and defended, the slow rebuilding of trust. We weren't perfect, but we were partners in a way we hadn't been before. We're writing our own traditions, I said, echoing his words from months ago. He nodded, pulling me close. And I think they're better than the old ones. Family traditions can enrich our lives, but not when they're used as weapons to control and diminish. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to Reddit Family Sagas for more journeys through the complicated landscape of family relationships and the courage it takes to stand your ground. Have you ever had to choose between peace and self-respect? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the most important tradition we can establish is the tradition of being true to ourselves, even when it means disappointing those we love. Your story might help someone else find their voice.